Channel Sports Central, beginning every college football game preview and prediction on a big matchup coming up in the SEC in Week 15. And this one's going to be between the LSU Tigers and the Florida Gators, two teams of which are in very different situations right now. Of course, on Florida's side, they still have a cultural playoff appearance on the line if they can just win the SEC championship and win out from here. And meanwhile, for LSU, they're 3-5 right now. They still can make it to a bowl game if they can win this matchup. And so they still have a bowl game that's potentially on the line here if they can get a win. So it's going to be a big game for both these teams moving forward. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this one here today, starting out with your team trends. Florida beat Tennessee last week, 31-19 being the final score. So that was a good one there for Florida. I mean, Tennessee definitely hung around for a little too long, considering Tennessee is like a 2-6 team this season. So that wasn't as good of a win as Florida's had this season. Certainly we've seen some better games out of them this past year, but still a win's a win. And that's a good thing for Florida here. As long as you can keep winning, they'll put you in a good position once we get to bowl season. For LSU, they got destroyed by Alabama, 17-55 being the final score there. That was a terrible loss for LSU. And obviously, Alabama's a really good team this season. They're definitely the most dominant team in the nation. And I think it's pretty obvious if everything goes as planned, Alabama definitely should win another national title this season. But, 17-55, that is a blowout for the LSU side. That was not a very good look for them. And they've lost two straight as well. They lost to Texas A&M as well a couple of weeks ago. So for LSU, right now they're 3-5, and they're sitting in a position where, I think honestly, if LSU goes into bowl season as a 4-5 team, or a team that's close to having a 500 record, which they still have 2 games left. They got Florida here and then Ole Miss on December 19th. So if they can win out, that should put them in a bowl game pretty easily. But even if they do go 4-6, I think there still is a chance that we do see LSU in a bowl game, mainly because of the name that LSU has. They're defending national champions, and considering most bowl games, or I think all bowl games, get to choose their teams, I'm pretty sure pretty much any bowl holder would probably pick a 4-6 LSU team over a say 5-5 Missouri team. So there still is a good chance, even if LSU is one game away from being 500, that we do see LSU in a bowl game. So the chances of them still making a bowl game are pretty high, I would say, right now. But yeah, stay tuned for that. But for Florida, they're currently the 6th ranked team in the nation according to the AP poll. They're 8-1 with a 6-game winning streak. So Florida is definitely one of the hotter teams in the nation right now with 6 straight wins. And they've had a lot of good wins down the stretch. They've had, I don't even think, a single close game over the past couple of months. Of course, that Tennessee game was a little close considering it was a 12-point win, but still, once again, a win's a win. So for Florida, they got a 6-game winning streak coming into this matchup against LSU. This game's going to be on Saturday, December 12th, 7 p.m. Eastern in Baton Rouge. So, of course, you got LSU can be in the home team here in this matchup. But looking at how it's going to be for Florida, the spread only says 24 points per game. And then ESPN FPI's got Florida 86%. Vegas predictions also going with Florida here, 45-23. Little correction there, too. This game is actually in Gainesville, Florida. So Florida will be the home team in this matchup. So that kind of explains why the spread is really heavy towards the Florida side right now. But the Vegas prediction, that's expecting a blowout there, 45-23. That would be a blowout win for Florida if that were the case. Here's your stat comparison for this game. Florida's got 43 points per game, 22 points allowed, 327 pass yards a game, 158 rush yards. And then for yards allowed, they got 234 passing and 88 rushing. So for Florida right now, this is a team that's extremely heavy on the passing, and I can totally see why. You got Kyle Trask, who's the quarterback at Florida. He's definitely a Heisman contender. I'd probably say he's the top 3, maybe even top 2 quarterback in the nation. Like everyone talks about, like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, but Kyle Trask should be mentioned among those 2 names. Like, he's had an insane season, 3,200 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions is what he's had. So he's on track to possibly hit 50 passing touchdowns on the season if everything goes as planned. But yeah, Kyle Trask is an excellent quarterback. He's been a huge impact player for Florida this season. There's no doubt about that. You can't forget about him if you're LSU here. But the problem is for LSU is they've allowed 313 pass yards a game. That is not a very good stat. I think that's the worst in the SEC as far as allowing pass yards a game goes. So yeah, LSU's got to get that figured out. If they're even going to keep this game close, because Florida, if they can just, they probably could just pass all over LSU and get the win if they really want to here. So for LSU, yeah, you got to do much better in the secondary if you want to get the win, which, it explains why LSU is so, they're a very young team this season. Like, their secondary, they lost Delpit, they lost several impact players on this defense in general. And that's why LSU is struggling this season, is because of how young of a team they are. Like, it's not just because of Joe Burrow is because of however many players that they lost and that went to the NFL draft as well. Like, they had an insane amount of players go to the NFL draft, and that's a big reason why LSU hasn't been able to win as many games this season as many LSU fans have hoped. But I mean, I can tell you right off the bat, LSU is going to be once again a good team within the next couple of seasons. It's just one down year here. I mean, it's just because they're a young team. Like, the recruiting is great, and I think LSU, I mean, with them returning basically every player on their active roster for next season, that's going to be huge for them. But yeah, once again for LSU, I mean, they've got a pretty high passing number as well with 306 pass yards a game. Of course, the quarterback situation has been kind of interesting in LSU this season with Miles Brennan being injured. He's out for the rest of the season. So they've been going back and forth between a couple of quarterbacks, but they got 110 rush yards a game. They also got 313 pass yards a game once again for allowing, and 156 rush yards allowed. So, but for points per game, they got 20-33 in comparison to their points allowed. So LSU does allow 5 more points on average per game in comparison to their points that they get. So that is something you also got to consider here. But for Florida, I mean, they've been doing very well for that rate there with 43 points per game in comparison to their 22 points allowed. So for Florida, yeah, this is a team that I definitely think is one to definitely watch out for moving forward. Some key points for this one: Florida is still a college football playoff contender. There's no doubt about that one there. I mean, you can't forget about Florida. Like, this is a team that has got Kyle Trask, who's definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, and they're more than likely going to be going up against Alabama in the SEC championship for possibly a spot in the college football playoff. Like, if Florida beats Alabama in the conference championship, like, that should easily put Florida as possibly the number 2 team in the nation, probably behind Clemson if they can win the ACC. Because, I mean, yeah, for Florida, like, Florida being a one-loss team and beating Alabama, like, there's no doubt that they'd be in the college football playoff. So the chances of Florida still being in the playoff are definitely there, just if they can win out and beat Alabama. But LSU is a very young team this season. There's no doubt on that too. I mean, that's kind of the reason why LSU's been a down team this season, is because of how young they are. They've got a ton of underclassmen, and that's been huge for them this season. But this is a crucial game for both these teams, especially for Florida. I mean, once again, you got college football playoff chances on the line here, and then you also got New Year's Six bowl game on the line. Like, if you take a loss here, that puts you at 8-2 going into your last game of the season, and that puts you into a tough situation if you lose to Alabama, because that gives you 3 losses, which probably knocks you out of a New Year's Six bowl game. So, crucial game, especially for Florida, but for LSU too, in making a bowl game, it'll be important for them. But here's what I'm expecting for this one. I've got Florida getting the win here pretty easily. LSU is just too young of a team. They're too inexperienced, and we've seen that all season long. I mean, LSU's not done very well against high-caliber teams, and that was a perfect example last week. And I just think Florida, they're just all around the better team. And I think Kyle Trask going up against a defense that has allowed 313 pass yards a game, that is not a good fit for LSU. And I think Kyle Trask is going to have a day against LSU here on Saturday. I think Kyle Trask is probably going to pass for a good 300 yards in this game, I think. So yeah, watch out for that. But I think Florida is all around they're just a better team here. Like, I mean, LSU's talented. They got some great recruits, but they're too young. Florida's going to get the win here, 30-13 being the final score. Halftime score is going to be 21-10. So it'll be somewhat close at the halftime, but I think Florida still is going to lead for the majority of this game. Probability is going to be 80% towards the Gators here. But let me know your thoughts and comments below on this one. Let me know your score predictions, all of that once again down in the comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. If you enjoyed this preview, stop a like on it, subscribe as well, as it really helps out the channel. I'd really appreciate that. Once again, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll catch you on the next one.